Hello, so today we're going to be talking about granny squares that don't have clusters, so they're like the holeless granny squares or solid granny squares, and they're basically worked kind of the same way except for you're double crocheting in every single stitch. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways you can join them and a couple different ways that you can do the corners. So let's start with this square. This square is using a chain 2 in the corner, and it is stepped up by just chaining 3 like you would. So if you look at it, it's kind of noticeable where the next round begins. So I'm not a huge fan of this. This is what people usually kind of turns them off from doing these solid granny squares, and they're always trying to figure out, well, how do I avoid that? Well, I'm going to show you how to avoid this and make your granny squares look more like this. Nice and solid all the way around. There's two ways of doing it. One is by using a chain 2 when you step up, and the other way is like this, and it's using a standing double crochet, which is still a little noticeable. It just depends on kind of the yarn. This yarn is the mandala yarn, so it's very thin. I probably should have been using like an F hook, but it's a little bit more noticeable here. You can kind of see where it's stepped up. It's just not as neat as, like, say, those rows. So let's unwind this, and I'm going to show you how to start this version of the granny square, which uses a chain 3 in the corner and a chain 2 to step up. We're going to show you how to do this from the very beginning. So be right back. Okay, so let's get started from the beginning. We're going to be using a magic loop. I have a video that shows you how to do this in like super detail. Oh, that's like a little too bright, isn't it? Let's turn off that one. Alright, so that's a little bit better. Alright, so we are going to be chaining 2 to start, and for this method, which I have dubbed the squishy method, you just ignore that chain 2. Every time you go up, you just pretend like it didn't happen. So we're going to be doing 3 double crochets, and it's going to kind of feel wrong at first because you're going to be like, okay, well then I have 4 posts, but we're ignoring that chain 2 because we're going to be slip stitching into the top of the double crochet, not into the chain 2. So we got our 3 double crochets. We're going to be chaining 3, and the only reason why you would do a chain 3 in the corner versus a chain 2 is purely for looks. Chain 3 is going to give you a little bit of a pointier corner, more square. The chain 2s kind of give you a little bit more of a rounded corner, like you can see in this one too. A little bit more of a rounded corner. Chain 3s give you a little bit more of an open side, or a corner I should say. So it's just chain 3, then 3 more double crochets, Alright, so we've got our 3 sides. So now we need another corner. So chain 3. And don't worry about having like a big ginormous hole in here because we're going to close that up and create a nice tight center. But it kind of helps to, like, you know, stick your hands in there and really hold on to it and get your foundation done without too much trouble. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 sides to our square plus our chain 3. Now it's time to close up our circle. So a lot of people have trouble with this part because they'll just pull the tail and the first loop goes down really easy, but the second loop won't, and then they end up with like this thing hanging out and they don't know what to do with it. So start pulling it until you can tell which one does want to go, and then grab that one and tighten up that other one. See that? And then when you pull your tail, everything goes, and it's really nice. And then we are going to be slip stitching into the top of the double crochet. So, which is this stitch right here, because our chain twos have gotten kind of sucked in. You see that, how they kind of disappear? So this is the top of our double crochet. You just slip, and look at that. It looks perfectly even, right? And you have no weirdo gaps, right? Like even on this first one, see how you ended up with a weird gap right there? No gap. So let me show you how to do the next one. So you chain two and then you ignore, right? And you go into the double crochet. So what you can see is right there, kind of hiding. So it helps to follow the posts back a couple stitches, so you know this stitch belongs to that post and this stitch belongs to that post. So therefore there's a stitch here that belongs to that post, and that's the space that you're double crocheting into. You're squishing it as if this chain two does not exist. I'm sorry, I keep going out of focus, keep getting my hands higher and closer. So, and that's how you kind of squish it close to it, and you take away that gap to make sure your square turns out really nice and even. And then you just double crochet in every stitch to the corner. And then once you're at the corner, it's 2 double crochets, a chain 3, and 2 double crochets. So that's 2 double crochets, a chain 3, and then 2 double crochets. That kind of gives more of an open corner effect. So then our next stitch goes into the top. You're going to want to make sure your second double crochet in the corner isn't hiding that first stitch. That's another where some people go wrong, is they forget that they need to crochet into the top of this double crochet, and they'll skip it and they'll go straight into the middle one, and that just pulls their whole corner kind of cockeyed and turns it. You see those granny square blankets where the center is off kilter and then it kind of turns back? It's because that's what they're doing at the beginning, is they're forgetting to go into that first double crochet. So there you go. So we have a double crochet in the top of every single one of our double crochets, plus the 2 in the corner. Then we get to our next corner. We do the same thing all the way around. So 2 double crochets, chain 3, 2 double crochets. Yep. And then pull it to the side a little bit, that way you can see your holes really nice. You can see those 3 holes, right? 1, 2, 3, right there. Those are the ones you're going into. My kids said they were going to be really nice and quiet in the next room. must be watching something really funny. Okay. There we go, and we're going to go all the way around, and then I'll meet you back up for the join to show you. Okay, so we've gone all the way around, and now we're back. And like I said before, we're going to be ignoring those chain twos, and we're going to find the stitch at the top of the double crochet, and that's the one we are going to be slip stitching into. Here we go. And you see, all our sides look exactly the same. And when you count the posts, you're gonna have a little extra one in there. But when you count the stitches at the top, they're going to be all the same. And that's what's keeping it square. Right. So then you chain 2. Get my yarn sorted out here. And we're going into the top of the next double crochet. So we're ignoring that chain 2. We're going into the top of this one, which kind of squishes it next to that chain 2. And as you get, I mean, you'll just see it just makes it so much cleaner going all the way around. To your corner. My yarn has decided to get all tangly here. Chain 3 for the corner. And I mean, these squares go on forever. They I mean, you can get some nice color changing mandala yarn, or the Karen cakes are always nice. And just keep going in a circle like this until you have like just one big giant square blanket. And you can see with the chain 3 how it creates a bigger hole there versus a chain 2, which is a little bit tighter. So it all kind of depends on the look that you're going for. So I'm going to finish up this round so we have 2 squares that are the same size, and we'll look at them side by side. Okay, so I zipped around at lightning fast speed, and we're back to joining. So this is our chain 2 column that we're ignoring, and we have one more double crochet over here, and this seam will stay straight, so eventually it will be in the center of your blanket, but it won't be noticeable. So we did our double crochet on top of that, and then you can see we have our chain 2 column that we're skipping, and we're going straight into slip stitching into the next double crochet column. That way we squish those chain 2s together, that way there's no gaps. So let's look at these 2 squares side by side and compare them here. So this has the chain 3 in the corner. You can see, once you block it, I did kind of like a fake block there, but once you dampen it and block it, you can see that you have very distinguished corners here, and the gaps in between are slightly bigger. And in this one, with the chain 2, you get a more rounded corner. Even when you block it, you're going to get a little bit of a different corner. I always tend to do the chain 2 because I kind of like things a little tighter together, I guess. But when you're putting your corners together, say you were joining these 2, it does look really neat to do kind of a star pattern for your joins with the chain 3s. So it kind of depends on your project and what you're doing. So let's compare our laddering here. So on this one, you can see that you have like this obvious gap here where your chain 3s were, and on this one you don't, because the chain 2s are just being squished with like an extra double crochet. But when you count the stitches at the top, all the stitches are the same. It's just this one has an extra little chain 2 that's stuck in there, but the same number of double crochets, right? So this one has one less double crochets on this side because you're using the chain 3 as a double crochet. This one has the exact same number of double crochets on every single row. It's just that this has a little extra chain 2 that's kind of squished in there. So that's your two little versions, and next we'll be showing you how to do a standing double crochet to avoid the gap. So there you have it. Okay, so I got my mandala yarn on a little square that I've been working on, and I'm going to show you how to do a standing double crochet to make the join. And it's not all that great, to be honest with you, to use with this mandala yarn. The stitches are coming out a little wonky. It's not always the case. Mandala yarn is very thin. I'm using a G hook. I should probably be using like an F hook for this yarn to make it a little bit tighter. But if you want like a nice loose blanket, I mean, it's really nice. So I'd probably use the other method for this yarn, but I'm going to show you how to do a standing double on it with it. So I'm nearing my corner, and it's made exactly the same way. You know, we started with 3 double crochets, or I started this one with the 4 because this is my chain 2. And then 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, all the way around. And you just double crochet in every stitch across. And then I'm going to show you how to join to a standing double, and then I'm going to show you how to make a standing double here. So we're at the end. When you pull it apart, you can see that every double crochet has a double crochet right on top of it, okay? And that's like a good indication that you're doing it correctly, that the only place where you should have more is in your corners, where you have 2 plus the chain 2 plus the other 2, right, to make your corners. So here we are. Now standing double makes this nice little double loop kind of thing here, and you just kind of squeeze through both those loops, and it makes a really nice even join. So to do a standing double, and I'm going to make sure I'm really in focus here and try not to move my hands too much. It can get a little tricky, but so you're going to pull up your loop to about a little bit higher than how long your double crochets are. So like if I swing it down, you can see my loop is just slightly bigger. Alright, sorry about that. The husband decided to walk into the room right when I'm going to show you. So here we go. So you're going to hold on to the loop with your thumb, and you swing it around so it creates like this weird little loopy thing that's only being held on by your thumb, because if you let out your thumb, it just kind of switches like that. So let me show you again. Here's your loop straight. You hold on your thumb, hold on to the yarn with your thumb, sorry. Swing it around to the back, keeping your thumb on there, yarning over, and then you go through the back, through the front, yarn over, and then you're going to kind of grip both of those down and go through both those loops. and that creates like a little twist that kind of mimics the twist of the double crochet and kind of hides it. It's great for thicker yarn. So this double crochet goes on top of that one. So this is our next one, right? So that's how you can always make sure you're not doing any increases, is that they should all be lining up. So this one is for this double crochet. So your next stitch is on top of that double crochet. And then you just work it around, making a double crochet in every double crochet all the way around. And that's your other way of doing it. So you can choose which version you like best. But don't pick this one. It just doesn't look right. So either go with a standing double, so you can see how much better that looks, or go with squishing in, which is kind of the one I prefer for doing it, because like even when the blanket gets pulled, it's gonna look like nobody's gonna be able to tell where it goes. So there you have it. Hope I helped.